Codie has just revealed her 7-step blueprint to buy and grow any business. Codie Sanchez is the multi-millionaire founder of Contrarian Thinking, a business which has helped hundreds of thousands of dreamers achieve financial freedom across the globe. Codie focuses on buying small businesses and growing them to become cash-flowing monsters. So what are we going to learn today? Give us the headlines.
Point one is going to be what I call the 3 waves. So this is the why. Point 2 is limiting belief. So how do I do this if I got no cash? Point 3 is what type of business should I buy? 4 is what if I've never done this before? 5 is finding it. In finance, the fancy term is origination. 6 would be how do you get other people to structure a deal where you win and they win? 7 is called selling you. How do you talk somebody into taking you seriously and letting you buy a business? That seems hard.
This video is sponsored by Surfshark. Let's start then with the 3 waves.
Okay, so the 3 waves is this singular idea that I found 3 years ago and everybody thought I was crazy, which is right now we've got the baby boomer generation retiring. So there are 75 million baby boomers who are going to retire over the course of the next 10 years. So let's call it by 2035. Those baby boomers are the ones who own most small businesses. They own somewhere between 60 to 70% of all small businesses. What's wild about that is, you know this because you got a bunch of businesses, the average net worth that is tied up in a business from a business owner, 90%. Most of them have no extra cash. So they can't just shut down the business and walk away. They need something for the business. And so we have this huge group of businesses coming online for the first time ever, but nobody knows how to buy a business because it was just for Wall Street before. It was never for normal people. And Wall Street wanted it that way because they were like, we want to own everything and we don't want you guys to, which is crazy. Like, for instance, did you know 3 companies own 40% of the entire corporate American structure, which is Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street.
Crazy.
And what's crazy about that is we can turn the tables by buying businesses in weird, unique ways that nobody talked about back when I was at Wall Street. So that's one. Wow, bunch of businesses coming online. In economics, they call that supply and demand. You got a ton of supply. Then point 2 here is what's called the Great Resignation, right? So we've already seen this. In the US right now, there's 7 million working age men that have just opted out of the workforce, largely because they can't find gigs. Also because they don't know what type of gigs that they want anymore. So we've got all these people who are opting out, quiet quitting, they don't like their job anymore. I've certainly felt that before. So we've got all these young people that don't want to work in corporations anymore. They're like, fuck your foosball table. I want a job that matters, right? Or I want to get paid more, or I want upside. I want to live my dream, right? And so we have the Great Resignation with the Great Retirement, or the baby boomer generation leaving. And then finally, we got that great corporatization, which is what we talked about with the 3 companies owning everything. Back in the day, there's a thing called private equity, which is what I used to do. In private equity, they basically take other people's money and they buy businesses. And private equity in 2000 used to own about 4% of companies in the US. Now they own 20% of companies. So these guys are buying up all the assets while we have to go sit in cubicles and work for somebody else. And it's criminal. And I think your first job does suck, like mine did, and you have to work hard and get over it. But those 3 waves mean that right now, today, we can have millennials and Gen Z and young people match up with baby boomers, not hate each other. Yeah, boomer, whatever. Millennials don't work hard. Gen Z doesn't work hard. Instead, they can become the solution to each other's problem. Simon has a business, let's say. Let's imagine Simon's 65. Simon's kid doesn't want to take over the business. He's already working in another state. And so who is going to take over this business? And a lot of times they don't even know they can sell it. And so we bring millennials and Gen Z together with these baby boomer owners and transfer the business. So that's the 3 waves.
Before we go any further, I have to tell you a little bit about our sponsor of today's video. Now please don't scroll on because Surfshark has sponsored this video that allows us to give money away to people just like you to fund dreams. And I want to show you how they allow me and my business to stay safe online. Now, like many of you, as a busy entrepreneur, I like to work on the go, whether this be on a long train journey or a busy cafe. But the public Wi-Fi is a hotspot for hackers trying to steal your personal information and compromise your future business plans. This is why, in part, I've asked Surfshark to sponsor this video. so I can keep you safe online at all times and give your business the best chance of success. Surfshark's VPN service encrypts your data, helping secure all of your personal information. It also blocks malware and phishing attempts using their Clear Web feature, allowing you to surf the web safely. Go to surfshark.com/Simon Squibb for an extra 4 months of Surfshark, or use the link in the description to stay safe online. Surfshark also offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so it's totally risk-free to try it out. What are you waiting for? Okay, well, I'm really interested in where these businesses are, because I know we're going to come to that later.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in, like, just because a business is for sale doesn't mean it's going to be a good business. We can talk about that in a minute. But most people will say they've got no money to take advantage of the market you've just described. So how do we
They're like,
deal with that?
awesome, Codie, I'm not a millionaire. I can't buy a business. That's how I felt. I worked in finance for like 12 or 13 years, and I still didn't really feel like I was smart enough to buy a business by myself. And I thought I didn't have enough money, and I thought buying businesses was for rich people. And then I guess kind of was rich there, but I didn't even think I was rich enough, you know? And then I had a boss I really hated. You ever had one of those?
Oh, I have. Yeah. I think these guys have got one right now like that.
I had just an awful boss, and I wanted to get out of the job so bad, but I needed to eat, and I had high expenses at that point, so I didn't know what else I was going to do. And so I tried to start a few businesses on the side. None of them ever made me much money. Like I tried my, what's your dream, but I couldn't figure it out. And so then I started looking. I was like, wait a second. We buy a business using other people's money, and then we grow that business, and then we sell that business for 2 to 3x what we bought it for. That's what private equity does. I'm like, why can't I just do that, but on a much smaller scale? So the 2 words that you need to know in order to do this are seller financing to start. So that's method 1. Seller financing basically means the seller of a business knows that on average there are 11 small businesses for sale in any 1-year period. Only 1 will sell in a calendar year. We own one of the biggest business buying and selling marketplaces in the world now. We have 47,000 business listings on it. It's called BizScout. So we have the data to back it up, showing most of these businesses never sell. So if that's the case, the seller is like, I gotta retire. I need the money.
They're motivated sellers.
Yeah, and so they are looking for somebody to take over the business. 60% of all businesses sold are sold with some portion of seller financing. So what we do is we get the seller to sell you the business using future profits. At which point you're like, who's gonna agree to that? And the reason why is really 3 things. The 3 things are time, money, and taxes, the good old IRS. Reason number 1, time. The average acquisition, if you're going to use a loan, which is how most people buy it, takes 120 days to close. That's almost half a year. Takes a long time. If you do seller financing, you're the bank. You can close as fast as you want to. We've had deals close in a week or 4 weeks on average. So Mr. Business Owner, do you want to close faster? Of course you do. You want to be on the beach? Cool, let's do seller financing. Money. On average, the loans for a small business, they don't want to offer the full amount that the seller thinks the business is worth. Typically, this is because financials and businesses are all messy, right? They are on a piece of paper, or they're in a spreadsheet, but they're not very clean. So the bank's like, Mr. Seller, you want $1 million? We only think your business is worth $500K. So we could give you $500K and you could take out a loan, or if you front us the money, we could pay you $1 million if the business is actually worth what you said it is. So, Mr. Seller, do you want to move faster? Do you want to get more money out of it? You do? Awesome. Okay. Then last part, taxes. If we do a bank purchase right now with a traditional loan, which would be hard for us to get maybe if we're young and we don't have a lot of experience, then you are going to pay 100% in capital gains, which is a fancy way of saying how the government takes your money in a transaction, if you do a traditional loan. If we do seller financing, you're going to pay a portion of it over, let's say, 10 years, the period of seller financing, plus there's all these fancy things you can do with taxes on it. So for this reason, a seller might go, I want to close faster, I want more money, and I want to pay less taxes, so let's talk about seller financing. The problem is actually not that you don't have money. The problem is you don't know how to use money and get it yet. And that can be really, really freeing. Once I figured that out, I was like, oh, not even the billionaires of the world buy their businesses using their own cash? So this is rule number one of how you do it.
This is mind-blowing, and I have never bought a business. So every single business, I built 19 companies, but all from zero.
Yeah.
So I'm learning here, and I really like this. I think the thing I do know is similar, though, is that to build a business, you need to know how money works. So, for example, I've raised money for businesses.
Yeah.
So I have used my own money in some cases, but when I was younger, I had no money. So I raised money from investors. So it's not a dissimilar model to this in many ways, because people buy an equity piece in your business and they get a return over time. So that model also can work in this case too. You could get an investor. You're talking about a finance seller. It could also be an investor.
100%. We teach 21 ways in the book to get other people's money in order to do the deal. And what you were just talking about is obviously, first, you could get investors. You could go to buddies, you could go to your buddies' parents, and you could get them to invest in your business. The cool part about this is if you ask people, like imagine somebody, you've already done this on the internet, I think, but like if some young hustler came to you or me and was like, listen, I just read Codie's book. I have a detailed notes on all the things I learned in the book. I put together a 1-page pitch on a business that I want to buy. It's going to cost me $100,000 to buy it. I'm going to raise X amount, and I want $50,000 from you, Simon, and $50,000 from you, Codie. And this business, I think, is going to make you this over time, and you get a percentage of the business. You don't have to do anything. I'm going to do all the work. If I think that that person's done all that work for it, what am I going to say?
High chance of yes.
High chance of
Especially
yes.
if it links to the purpose of the investor. But yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
So often the problem isn't money, it's good deals, and it's being able to see them. We'll talk about that when we get to finding deals. The second way is what I called expertise to equity. So this is how Simon should probably buy a lot of businesses, which is like, you know how to go viral AF on social. Well, what do most businesses need?
Marketing,
leads. Yeah. And so since they need leads, they could say, hey, Simon, I'll give you 10 or 20% of my company if you will post on social media. In fact, I think you have videos about this.
Yep.
Okay, so this is called expertise to equity. And you get expertise to equity through 3 things. You get it, 1, from cash. So can I increase leads? Can I bring more revenue to a business? 2 is cutting costs of a business.
Yep.
Can I just have you spend more money? Somebody came to me right now, or you, and was like, hey, I think you spend $100,000 right now in marketing. I could drop that by 50%. You might give them some equity in a business. And number 3 is pain. So most small business owners are unorganized. We're running around like chickens with our heads cut off, and we're in a lot of pain. So if somebody could come in and operationalize your business and decrease your pain, then we would probably be open to giving them some equity in a business.
Now, what is SOS?
So at this point, a lot of people go, okay, Codie, so should I buy laundromats like you talked about in the beginning? Should I buy a media company like you have? And they don't know what type of business to buy. And there's a lot of different ways to talk about this, but I have one that I call SOWs, which I break down in the book in general, which goes like this. We want to have businesses that are stale. And that means that they really haven't innovated. In particular, it's kind of a good sign in a business when you're buying it like this. If there's like a fax machine and they use it, if their invoices are on like a piece of paper and they're writing it down in the back. So you want a company where you could come in and you can add some technology. So we're looking for stale businesses. The second one is old. And this, to me, you want businesses that have been around at least 3 to 6 years. The reason why is not because Codie says so. It's a thing called the Lindy effect. And basically what you see is there's a graph like this. So if you have a business, let's call it year 1 through year 10, and here you have likelihood of failing. The Lindy effect is a mathematical formula that tells you that the longer something has been in existence, the more likely it is to continue to be in existence. So it's almost the opposite of what we think today. It's like, AI, it's gonna be great, we should invest in that. Actually, it's gonna have a super high failure rate. There'll be a few that make it huge, but there will be a graveyard of the many. And so in year 1, your likelihood of having a business that is going to fail is really high. And then basically what you see is every year all the way down to year 10, your likelihood of failing goes down. And so by the time you get to about year 6, you have less than a 50% chance of failure. Now, statistics doesn't mean that you can't still fail in a business. You can, but you just know that historically this business has made you money, and the likelihood it will continue to make you money is higher. So that's why we want old businesses. And then the next one is we want weak. And what do I mean by this? It means I don't want you to go compete against Jeff Bezos. Like, Yeah, you could have an old business in the form of Amazon that's trying to compete with him, but we don't want to compete with the best when we're just starting out because we're not that good. And so what you're looking for here is like, you know, when have you like, I don't know, gone to a handyman, and the handyman was just like incredible. They like did text follow-up, they sent you a survey, they asked for a review, they did an upsell sequence, they had recurring revenue. Like that doesn't exist.
Doesn't happen. No.
Doesn't happen.
No.
So what would that mean? Handyman, probably an
good business.
interesting
You
way
could
to
really
do it.
excel in that space because
Exactly. And then the last one is simple. So this one is, you should feel good about this if you don't know a ton about business, because here's what I don't want. I don't want you talking about IP. I don't want you to talk about patent pending. I don't want you to talk about biotechnology. We're talking about a business so simple, you can explain it to your 7-year-old, although he's probably really smart, or like
smart.
my grandma.
Yeah.
Very simple business, because this is your first one, so we want the first one to win. So this is how I determine if I'm going to buy a business, and I've never bought one before. I want to do it with seller financing. I want to cash flow off the business. This isn't like my passion for life. This is like, I want to make money. I want to make money right now. I want to do it by myself. I want to be able to have a business that makes me more maybe than my salary. And then I use SOUS. So that's one of we have 7 frameworks to determine how to figure out your type.
Yeah,
Okay,
all right.
let's talk about mindset.
Mindset.
Okay, rule number 1. I think people get scared to buy a business because they think that their first acquisition will be their last. And that is not true. So what I want you to think about, I did this as an example. Actually, I was pulling one of you, but I didn't put it on Instagram, which I should have. Back in the day, I started a business, back in the day, like 2 years ago. I started a little newsletter business with really no cash, like on the side, not with my name publicly, etc. It's called Grow Getters. And then I grew it to a couple thousand subscribers. And then I sold it for $8,000. And the reason why is I wanted to show people you can start a business and sell it. So you should also read the book if at any point you have everybody who has a dream, gets their dream started, should then read this book, because they should learn how to sell that dream. What happens for most of these side hustles and businesses is they shut down. This business that I sold had zero customers. We didn't sell anything. It had no employees, and still I could sell it for $8K. So I wanted to show people that. And then the first business that I bought, I sold later. The first business that I bought made me like $67,000 a year. The first one that I talked about publicly. And this was a laundromat. And everybody on the internet goes like, this is a terrible deal. Why would you buy a business for $100K that does $67,000? Or they'll say, this is too good of a deal. That could have never happened. You would never make that much on a laundromat. One of the two. And the truth of it is for me at that time, that was a great deal. It was like little enough for me to feel okay with it. And it was also big enough where I could make real income and see if I could do this or not. And since then, we've bought businesses for $10,000. We've bought businesses for $10 million. So the truth of the matter is, what happens when you start looking for buying businesses, you turn on something called your reticular activating system. You've heard of that?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So basically, if anybody hasn't, it's, say I go buy a car. I buy a Porsche. Before I buy the Porsche, I don't really notice Porsches anywhere. Then I buy the Porsche, all of a sudden every motherfucker in LA's got a Porsche. What happened between the two? Well, my brain, I had just been telling it Porsche, 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 so it starts to see Porsches everywhere. And this is the same thing with businesses. Once you learn how to do a deal, you're gonna talk to your buddy who has an idea for a startup, and you're gonna be like, wait a second, I know how to do sales for that startup. Can I get some equity in it? You're just gonna see the businesses all around. And so my mission is kind of to get as many people as possible to turn this on, to read the book.
We have the same mission. Wake up, realize your potential.
Right.
Learn to enjoy risk as well.
Oh my God, it's actually so interesting. I think that the way that you make money, tell me what you think of this framework and if I'm missing anything. Here's my thought. I think if you want to make money, you, 1, have to increase your skill set. So you need a value stack of skills that's pretty good. You, 2, have to work harder than you think. For 3, longer than you think. 4, developing some sorts of connections, which usually starts with you giving things before getting them. But 5, you have to take risk. And if you don't take any risk, you can become a millionaire, but it's a lot harder. And I don't think people think about risk. People think about risk badly. But in finance, we call it like, oh, I'm taking a risk on trade. It's like a good thing.
Totally.
What do you think?
Well, first of all, I think it's absolutely right. The nuance is always interesting because I made the most amount of money when I wasn't working hard. But I had to work hard to get the company to a point
100%.
where then I could bring people in, seasoned people with skills better than mine to run the company, and then I didn't work as hard and I made even more money.
Yeah.
But there's a progress part, especially if you're watching this, you've got no money, you're starting a business. I think you have to work hard at the beginning, but you're really stupid to keep working hard because it's not sustainable and the business will collapse if you stop working hard, which is a risk for an investor or risk for you in life. You want to build it out as quickly as possible so that you're not working hard. The smartest people I know built businesses where they're not really working hard on the business anymore, unless they want to. Like I'm working hard today because I want to.
And you like it.
And I like making content. I like making content that helps people. Hopefully the content also promotes my book and promotes Help Bank, but I want the community eventually to support people starting businesses, not me.
Yeah.
But I have to work really hard at the beginning, and partly I want to, but then I don't need to anymore. Right? That's the only. Otherwise, your 5 points. We should have written those 5 points down.
Well, I think actually you're right, and it kind of is like what you talk about. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think first it's hard work, then it's long work, then it's skill stack, then it's connections, then it's risk.
Right.
So if you are not willing to work hard, long, you don't have any skills, and you don't have any connections, but you take risks to start, you're probably not going to do great. But if you've developed a skill set, an ability to work long and hard, and then you take risk, it might work. But if you start with all 4 of those and then you get to risk, it works. And then in the future, what do you really do? You really only use this one and this one.
Well, you take risk hiring senior people to run your company, for example, then you get to this level. Yeah, it's so true. Find a business. Now, I know you're building an app around this, which I've been intrigued about. But yeah, how do people find a business to buy?
Yeah, so there's lots of different ways. We teach 12 ways to buy a business. So I don't think you should use all 12. I think you should pick like 3 methodologies and focus on that. Otherwise, it might be too many. So the 2 main ways that people find a business to buy are off and what I'll call on-market deals. So an on-market deal would be like BizScout, and I won't say our competitors. You know what? Not just
there aren't any.
There's a bunch of other ones. Whatever. There's BizBuySell. There's LoopNet.
No, don't list them. Giving them free exposure to millions of people.
We're so good.
We'll get them as sponsors.
Yeah, exactly. We're so good that it doesn't matter.
Fair.
But this basically means you go to BizScout and it's like Zillow for small businesses. There's a ton of them up there. You can get financing and all of that. So you go and you peruse businesses just like you would real estate. And the key I'll talk about in a second, which is called your deal box. So no matter what method you use, you've got to have what's called a deal box, and we'll get into that. So this is an on-market deal. This is a scroll, or like Sean would say, the founder of Tinder, like swipe right or left on businesses. Off-market businesses are 2 types. On BizScout, we do have a off-market deal scraper. Basically, an off-market deal takes longer to find, but is oftentimes a better deal. So it's like, what's your trade-off? You want to go fast, or do you want to go a little slower but maybe get a better deal? Off-market deals would be when your friend tells you, God, my Uncle Sam is ready to retire and nobody wants to buy this pizza shop. He might shut it down. And you might be like, Sam, why don't you just let us take over that business? We'll pay you from future profits of the business. And if it doesn't work out, whatever, you still made more money than shutting that bad boy down. That's an off-market business. So it's just reticular activating system on, looking around. Or on BizScout, we have this scraper where you could say, like, where are you from? Like
London.
London proper?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say you are looking for businesses in London and you want to buy a coffee shop. And so you would go on there and you could search all coffee shops in this parameter, and you could get the business owner's contact information, etc., in order to reach out to those small business owners. So those are 2 ways. But the real key is a deal box. And this is like, before our time, because I don't think the apps existed back then, but like these days on the Tinder app, if you were going to date somebody, you might be able to say like, what do the kids say? Like 6'5", blue eyes, trust fund, whatever.
Now you got that song on my head.
I know, it's a good one. We could be playing it later in LA. All right, so you might say like, I want this. Here's the parameters of the person I want. Well, it's the same for a business. You might go, I want the business to make X dollars. I want the business to be located in London. I want the business to be one where there is an operator already in place that runs it. I want the business to be able to take seller financing. We have like this full checklist in the book. You can go through and kind of like, you're like Goldilocksing it, right? You're like, that bowl too cold and too hot, just right.
This works the same in angel investing, by the way, because I've invested in 78 companies.
1,000%.
It's exactly the same model, like a business that I can add value to, right? So marketing, if I bring my marketing to the company, will that bring value?
Yeah.
Exactly the same criteria.
Yeah, exactly. And so 2 ways to find a business, and then your deal box. This is the most important part. And one part of the deal box that I think you'll like, that I add, that other people don't, is 1, fun. You don't want to buy a nightmare. You know, you want to buy something that you're like, that'd be cool. I want to do that. So private equity guys, they're no fun. Wah, wah. They don't care about that. I care about that. And the second is dignity. So in my belief, like I said, labor is like one of the most beautiful things you can do. So when I buy a business, I want to make sure I'm the boss that I wish that I had. I want to make sure we provide the value to our clients that I wish I got at some other place. And so for me, if I was to go buy a pawn shop, yeah, you could make a lot of money on that. I don't think that'd be my dignity. It might be somebody else's. And then, you know, if they were like, you know, you need to own an accounting firm, I might be like, I really don't want to do that. That doesn't sound very fun. So those are 2 additional things I add.
I find the word fun in business is not used enough. I love to hear this being highlighted to people.
Yeah.
What is fun for you, though?
I like solving problems that I think I'm uniquely, you know, I uniquely am skilled to solve. So like I think it's fun to solve a problem live, but not all problems. So, you know, if it's, hey, I got to get in a spreadsheet all day to look at how to save on taxes, I'd rather bore my eyes out. But if it's like this business over here has a great founder, he's young and hungry, it's in the trades, but they need to market more, he's a great guy, the team's incredible, and you get to mess with the brand, fun. And so for me, I love like a good problem to solve. And then the other part is like good people to solve it with. Otherwise, life sucks.
This model reminds me so much of the property business. I actually have a real issue. I hate the property business because it's a bit soulless. But this reminds me very much.
Mean like real estate?
I'm talking about people buying property and renting them out and renovating them. This model has a very similar flow to it. But this is so much better because this is keeping businesses alive, even keeping traditions alive, keeping fun alive for some of these companies, historic companies. I actually really love the idea that this could replace people thinking doing property is a good business. And start a business or buy a business to me is so much more fun. And you learn. Buying a house, changing the kitchen, changing the lock on the door and renting it out to someone that can't afford it for high yield. What's the point? How much do you really learn doing that? Like, whereas if you buy a laundromat, you will actually learn a lot. You'll learn about how money works. You'll learn about how customer service works. You'll learn about engineering probably because the machines probably break down. But like that, you just learn so much when you have a business that you don't learn, I think, just buying a property and renting it out.
Yeah, well, and the other part that I think that's tough about real estate is that it's super volatile. So like in a business, you know, you're in my businesses, I know for a fact, are growing a lot right now. In a market in which real estate is down in the US, like 20 to 30%.
Well, you're going to get a lot of haters in the comment on this one because every time I slag off property, I get a lot of haters.
Got a lot of trouble.
But the thing is, because nothing's safer than houses. There's belief systems that people have that aren't not true. Like gold's made more money than their property. If you bought gold in the 70s, it's more valuable than property today, equivalent in inflation.
I didn't know that.
Just holding gold. You know how the maintenance cost of that gold, right? Other than storing it. You don't. No one gold's not ringing you up and saying, "Excuse me, my washing machine broke." You know what I mean? Like I actually think it's back to your dignity thing. Actually, without going off at a tangent, I think property hurts the poorest amongst us because like a nurse can't afford to rent or buy. So what? So she's like in England anyway, like they're on food stamps, right? They're like having to survive because their salary's not enough and their rent's too high. But the person who owns a house is getting their 9% yield. And I'd rather create a business that creates employment, that creates opportunity, and you 100%. Learn more. So
and you can offset, like for that nurse. Let's help her make more.
Totally.
And I think that's the beautiful goal that's totally
But the property business has completely taken over a lot of young people's minds. They think that's the way to make money, property, and I don't. I think it's buy a company now or start a business. Okay, structurally. Okay.
So here's one of the most important skills I think you can ever become, which is a deal maker. And I think you believe this same thing.
Yes.
If you can understand the language of money, which to me is deals, you'll never be poor.
Totally.
Because take me out of America right now, put me in another country with none of my assets, take everything away from me. I still understand how money works and I can still go up to somebody and say, I bet this is worth this, I bet this is worth that. If I bring this other thing, could I make money from that? And it's like this, it's a little bit of magic. And so the main thing about structuring a deal that I think I want to talk about today is price versus terms. Do you guys ever talk about this?
No.
Okay, so the famous thing to know in making a deal is there's only 2 levers you can pull. Price and terms. Most amateurs obsess on price. So if I go to sell a business, they're going to say, I want $1 million for my business. My business makes $10 a year. I want $1 million for a business. Would I say, if I said to you, Simon right now makes $10 a year in his business, and I want to buy it from you for $1 million. What would you say?
No.
You'd say no. Why?
Because it doesn't justify the capital. I can put it elsewhere and get a better return.
Okay, well, most people aren't going to say that. Most people are going to say yes. And why are they going to say yes? They're going to say yes because this business only makes $10. Why wouldn't?
Oh, I misunderstood. You mean sell it? Oh, I see what you mean. Oh, yeah. Would I sell it if I'm making $10 and sell it to you for $1 million?
Yes.
100% yes.
Yeah, you'd go.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant buy it. I was I wouldn't buy it.
You're like, that's a terrible business.
Okay, I like the way you work with me there, though. You didn't call me an idiot. That's nice. Thank you.
So if you're only making $10 a year, and I say I'm going to buy it for $1 million, Simon goes, yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course, definitely.
Silly deal. And I go,
I think I've got a business like that if you want it.
Simon, sign it right there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
sign it on the dotted line.
Yeah.
Sweet. Here's the problem. What if I tell you I want to buy it for $1 million, $1 a day for the next 50 years? You go, fuck, I did a bad deal. Why? Because of the terms. So we don't actually care about price as long as we get the right terms. And so in doing a deal, you would look at this because you've looked at contracts a million times, and you look at the contract and go, wait a second, I'm not giving you those terms. But most people obsess on price. And if you know this, like the people listening, they're going to go, oh, sure, we'll do a deal for $50,000 for this business. No problem. If we see that the business is valued properly at that. And you're always going to give on price because the secret is you can have your price and my terms, or my terms and your price, but you can't have both. And you're going to let them control the price because that seems nice. But in reality, you're going to control the terms, and the terms is where money is made.
By the way, it's the same I had an agency business. It's exactly the same framework when working with clients. You know, clients will always want the low price and the best service. You know, you can't have both.
Right.
So,
that's right.
Yeah,
exactly. So if you remember one thing in deal making, remember, control the terms and you control the price. And what I teach in this chapter, which is chapter 8, is when we're looking at doing deals overall, if we understand, it's kind of like, you know how if you go to drive a car and you know there's like park, reverse, neutral, drive. If you know what all the levers are, you can make the car do what you want.
Yep.
If you don't know what the levers are, the car won't move, or you'll stall it out, or you'll break it. And the problem is most people go through life not knowing what the levers are. And because of that, they'll never make a ton of money. And this is why most people don't get equity in their business, is you go to negotiate your salary with your boss. And what are you negotiating? Salary. Maybe only 3% of people negotiate their salary every single year. Done. Second thing that they negotiate is vacation, right? That's it. If I was going to negotiate, you know what I'm doing? Not 3% or not vacation and not salary. I'm going to negotiate upside. I'm going to negotiate commission percentage. I'm going to negotiate if-then statements, which basically like, if I do this, can I have this? So I'm not even going to talk about.
You want unlimited upside. I don't know why people would ever cap their upside.
100%. But we weren't taught.
No.
So like when I first did it, I was like, they offered me $37 a year. 37,000 for my first job, and I was like, I'm so rich. Thank you. I didn't negotiate anything.
Right.
Probably for the first like 2 years.
Probably good though. The experience is also part of the upside sometimes in those early years.
100%.
Right?
But as long as you negotiate kindly, you can at least get some learnings.
I think as business owners, we're both business owners. If people come to me with they're going to do something to make the business have an upside, I love people sharing the upside.
Me too.
That makes total sense to me, but people don't negotiate that way. And most companies don't want to teach you this.
Right.
Most people aren't like us because they don't want their employees to be free.
Yeah.
They don't want people to be financially free. So So the people that know, you and I know, owning equity is the only way to scale financially. Owning upside and what happens to the business. But those that work for someone don't know that, and the bosses that are out there won't tell you this because they won't want you to come and ask for equity, or they don't want you to have upside. They want to cap their cost.
100%. Well, and I think this might even be more important than selling you, but even let's say that you were going to negotiate in a business that you don't own outright, so just working for somebody, there's a couple things that I would do. One is bonuses based on upside. We already know that if I do X, I get Y. Second is equity. Third is rev share, which means if the business does this and I have like a material impact on the business revenue growing, can I get a percentage? Profit share, slightly less cool, which is if the business makes this in profit, can I get a percentage on it? And then the other thing that I think a lot of people don't ask about, investor percentage. Hey, boss, I know that I'm not valuable enough yet to get equity in the company. Look yourself in the face. Not every employee is valuable enough to get equity in the company. I wasn't valuable enough for probably 10 plus years. At that point, you could say, hey, I know that I can't get equity in this company. And your boss would go, this kid's smart. Instead though, can I have the ability to invest alongside you in a deal or two this year? Could I take a little bit of my bonus, a little bit of my salary, and could I put it into a business and put some risk on the table? And you would say,
100%.
yeah,
Love
I'm gonna
that.
do that. And if you were even
I just had one of my colleagues do that, by the way, in one of our other platforms. They literally just offered to invest alongside a small percentage.
so this
But
is
my
how-
respect for them also goes skyrocketing too, because they're thinking about how they can add value, take a risk alongside me, even if it's a minute risk versus mine. That is
Skin in the game.
a great way of framing
This
it.
is the way that most private equity guys make all their money. It's actually never in the, it's not never, it's rarely in the actual company. It's not in contrarian thinking, my company. It's because my company does 100 deals a year. And if I do 100 deals a year and my guy says to me, hey, I'm maybe not the best at analyzing deals right now because I haven't done it this much. Could I have a shot at like your top 2 deals this year that you really like? So you help me analyze them. You pick 2 because I can't afford to do all of them. And that's how PE guys make all their money.
Love it, absolutely. I thought, by the way, you were going to say with the equity thing. I've seen this. If someone's like a top performing salesperson in the company, and I don't want to lose them, and they say to me, "I'm going to set up my own sales company. Would you like to be a shareholder in it? I'll keep working for you, but I'll hire other people, and I'll still service you, maybe even more so, and you can get reverse investment."
That's a really good one, and I didn't talk about it. We should.
I love that. Okay, selling you, is that part? Have we covered it really? Selling you there or not?
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing I was going to say with selling you is the best predictor of future behavior is the past. So if you want to sell yourself as somebody who's selling a business, you should show a history of winning. So in investing, we say, historical guarantees are no indication of future returns. Except when you go and invest, what do people always do? Look at what's called your track record. They look at how you've done historically. So if you are looking for somebody to give you a part of your business, you are a salesperson and you are selling what I like to call your personal track record. So what you really want to do here is, there's 3 things in track record that matter. You want to show, 1, hey, look at all these times I won. I'm a winner. 2, look at all these times I almost failed, but I didn't, because I don't give up. 3, look at all of these times that I did something that is valuable to your business. It's like, I already kind of did this thing that would be the same thing as your business. And then lastly, you want to show a lot of curiosity. God, Simon, I love this business. This is the best business ever. I've always wanted to be involved in a business like this. And then finally, compassion. One of the reasons I think deals go sideways is, like, I remember some of my first deals. I was like, oh God, you guys run on that software? You're not doing any sales? Is this, I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna kill it. And the owner was like, listen, kid, we're doing this for 20 years, beat it. So if you can show winning, you can show grit, you can show value, you can show curiosity, you can show compassion, then you have a track record that allows somebody to want to sell you their business.
I really like that. I also think the references, other people saying you're great, there's some stuff there too, right?
Yeah.
I think that references generally are just so underrated. If someone tells you Simon's great, it's much better than me saying I'm great. Right. So getting those people that have said, I worked with them and they did this and they were amazing. I couldn't recommend them enough.
Yeah.
I know you've got to go. So that's it, folks. I hope you enjoyed that. And we're off to have some chicken now. So see you later. And don't forget, go to surfshark.com/Simon Squibb for 4 extra months of Surfshark on me.